welcome back to this week's episode of Since I Was Young, a podcast dedicated to all things Heart of Midlothian, table-topping Heart of Midlothian, no less, as we continue our race towards something quite historic. Something also that is quite historic. We are back as a team for today, and hopefully we will see how long this lasts. But Ewan has taken time out of his warm weather training camp that he managed to get on to grace us with his presence once again. So we are absolutely, well, I speak for myself, I'll speak for John as well. We're absolutely delighted to have you back. Big man, how are you getting on?
Thank you very much for having me back on. Yeah, no, it's been not too bad. I won't complain about the 20-degree weather. So it's been rather nice day. So going from like 3 o'clock this morning in a thick like sort of jacket, and then heading into into 20-degree weather was quite a change this morning. So, but happy to be back on, and thank you very much for having me again, boys.
Oh, mate, no dramas at all. You could almost say it was like changing from a bottom six battle, a relegation battle last season, to being top of the table, fighting for a league title for the first time in God knows how long. See, I'm linking it all up here. I'm linking it all up here today, boys. I'm on form. It might be the several drinks I had at lunchtime, but I'm on form.
Could be that, no.
Could be.
Yeah, I mean, we hear his dulcet tones every week on the show in the intro, of course, but it is absolutely the biggest pleasure to have you back on the show, man. I came aboard as a guest a few times with you guys, and it's always been something I've wanted to do, to have more discussions with the three of us, so let's get in about it. Doesn't matter how I am, Alan. We've got Ewan back on the show this week, so let's make it count. Every second should count this week.
Absolutely. Well, before we do get started, I kind of went off piece with the intro there, but before we do get started, as ever, you can find all of our social media links down below in the description. Whilst you are down there, please do consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. You can also find us on Spotify at Since I Was Young Podcast. Whilst you're in the hitting the subscribe button on YouTube, why not leave us a comment with your thoughts on the Aberdeen game that took place at the weekend, because that is kind of the focus of our conversation this week, and a few extra bits thrown in along the way. But I don't know about you, we spoke last week, John, about the Falkirk game and how nervous and anxious it was, and how myself in attendance felt ridiculously nervous and anxious. And it's interesting because Claudio Braga mentioned in his after-match interview that he did, he could feel the tension because it's natural and it's understandable. I didn't feel that against Aberdeen, and that may be down to the fact that they are ridiculously off form, and we just seem to, when it's at Tynecastle, it's almost a guaranteed home win for whoever's at home when those two sides meet. But I felt confident, and when I saw the lineup, I felt a little bit more confident.
I mean, I think that last week we had sort of anticipated another scrappy battle, but we both, I think, plumped for a victory for Hearts. Certainly we talked about the importance of the crowd, and I think Derek McInnes has actually mentioned that again in the past couple of days, how important it is for the crowd to be up for it. And he even made the mention of the fact that he doesn't want to be the guy constantly geeing up the crowd. He wants them to be like that from the start anyway. That seemed like it was more the case in the Aberdeen game, and I definitely feel like that pushed the boys on, because outside of like a couple of early kind of half chances that Aberdeen were able to craft, we kind of had the better of the first half by a considerable distance. We looked like scoring a few times before we even did. We could have easily been 2 or 3 up by half time, I felt like, at the weekend. And I do think that the crowd was a massive part of that.
Sorry, I think Ewan is having some audio issues at the moment, folks, so we're going to try...
Oh, no, we're back.
No, we're back. We're back.
We're back.
Yeah, that's grand. It's as I say, Ewan is currently joining us from overseas. So if there are issues and things that aren't quite right, then we'll muddle through it. We'll make it work. But no, I totally agree with you, John. I think the club have tried to sort of ramp up the atmospheres at home games, and they've tried to kind of give these games a bit more of an extra edge because they need to. And it was nice to see, obviously, the pre-match stuff that they did heading into the Aberdeen game, and the Ultras get involved as well. So it's every game is massive. We've said it many times that every game from the end of the season feels like a final, and they have to have that about them. But Ewan, what did you obviously the lineup and stuff. What were your thoughts on that? And any sort of standouts for you?
Well, I think one of the things that was kind of pointed out before the game was that I can't even mean who said it, but we pretty much had an outfield 11 pretty much all injured, which was a bit of a oh Christ on. But the with this like the main kind of focal point of the who was going to be partnering up with Halkett and like obviously the two central midfield roles of Spittle and Magnuson as well, both kind of in the sort of interesting was it combos as well. Obviously you had a Jamie Carter in there, which was also nice to see. And I think the lineup was probably as expected as you can be as well. Obviously, again, I know there's been this long kind of debate with that kind of the right back role as well, that has been currently occupied by Steinwender as well. To kind of give that more the defensive presence as well. Whereas with Al Tena as well being that more kind of attacking minded, but kind of the wing back as well. But I think I think in general the team was probably what I was probably expecting, and as well, I don't know who even mentioned it as well, but come the start of April with all the injuries slowly coming back as well, it'll almost feel as if we've had another transfer window, essentially,
Yeah, completely. I think you're absolutely right. I think the point about that, it shows a lot of mental strength and character from the team, and I think Derek McInnes has mentioned that a few times, as have his players. Obviously the injuries that we've had to the important players that we've had as well would have been enough to derail some teams and really cause a lot of problem. But what we've done is what we've done all season. We've just dug in and played with the players that we've got, and guys like Blair Spittle, who I thought was fantastic against Falkirk, and I thought he was brilliant against Aberdeen again. A guy that's kind of come in out the cold and just been thrown in. I mean, he was thrown in with 10 minutes to play before the start of the Falkirk game. So, but he's come out looking pretty solid and a very, very good squad option. But we started the game very well. You could see that intensity, you could see that aggression that Derek McInnes wanted. Didn't also touch on the fact that there was a legendary Scottish manager in Tynecastle, the guest of honour, Sir Alex Ferguson. He was invited by Hearts to sit in the stand and watch us dismantle his. Listen, it's a nice touch. I did find it quite ironic though that I don't know why they chose to do that. Derek McInnes has spoken a lot recently about the fact that he talks to Alex Ferguson quite often, and there's obviously an open dialogue there, so they maybe just kind of took advantage of that. But the choice of fixture was an interesting one to invite him for a game against Aberdeen. But yeah, it all adds up, and we came out the traps really quick, and we did what we want to see as Hearts fans. It was quick, it was aggressive, it was pressing, it was intense. We created, I think, 2 or 3 chances in the first 15 minutes or so, and that's what you want. Obviously, we had Pierre-Landry Kabore up front along with Braga, and once again, Kabore didn't quite have his shooting boots on, but thankfully he had his assistant boots on at one point. But it's I don't know about you. I'm going to talk about Kabore because I want to. The man is an enigma to me. He's 24 years old, which I actually thought he was younger than that, I can't lie. But I feel like watching him, you can kind of get a sense in the first sort of 10, 15 minutes of a game what Kabore you're going to get. If he stays on his feet and actually controls the ball and plays it well, you're thinking, right, he's on one today. But if he slips about and falls on his arse, you're thinking he might get hooked at halftime. But I'm a big fan of Kabore. I think that chaotic energy is something that Braga kind of feeds off quite well, and the rest of our forwards feed off quite well. And I think that was evident against Aberdeen, and Kabore did a very good job. What do you think, John?
I was somewhat bemused by the fact that we played them in a two up front with Braga. I feel that Kabore, and I think that he displayed this not just on the goal but throughout the game. I think he's more effective out wide. He's got some pace about him. He's quite a strong player. We saw the way that he just leapt over the challenge of Morrison, and then that led to him like cutting back to set up Braga's goal. I think that he is more effective out that way. I think that a 4-2-3-1 with Spittle in a sort of 10 role with Kizaridis and Kabore out wide supporting Braga would have probably been how I would have set it up if it was that 11. Not that I'm here to complain. We want the 3 points, and that's all that matters really at this point in the season, especially. But yeah, Kabore, I felt he had one of his better games. He had a couple of chances to score as well, but he's a very wasteful finisher. And I think that's ultimately precisely why I'm a bit uneasy about playing him in a 2 with Braga. I just feel like play Braga through the middle and play Kabore out wide, where he can be more effective, where he can provide some more of what his game actually is, which I think is more of a supporting role. I just think he's better off out wide.
Yeah, no, I get that, and I understand your point. He's Kabore, like I say, he is very much a kind of enigma type of striker, as I kind of described him. You don't really know what you're going to get from him, and you're right though. I think we've seen positive signs from him when he's played off that right hand side, or off the sort of wide area, cutting in, and that, like you mentioned, was where the goal came from. The ball to Kabore though, I think it was Spittle, or it might have been Leonard. I can't remember which one it was. But it was absolutely. I think it was Spittle actually. It was absolutely sublime. He just sort of hooks it down the line, and all of Kabore's strengths and attributes were in display with his assist. Like you say, the leaping over the defender and getting the ball into the box. But Braga does what Braga does, or Braga has done all season long. His movement in the box is just incredible. He knows exactly where the space is. He knows where he has to be. I'm not going to lie, I thought Kabore might have had a shot, as is the chaotic nature of the man. But I'm delighted that he looked up and found Braga, and just a very good finish from Braga. Dare I say, a bit Shankland-esque from Braga. Ewan, talk to me about Claudio Braga. What a player.
I mean, what can you say about him? I mean, compared to... I mean, as you just touched on him there, like it feels as if every time I watch Kabore for every game, I feel as if I have to take like a the beta blocker to calm down my heart rate, because like I was in fair play to him. Like he did amazingly well to actually give the assist as well, and. As you said as well, it was like a very Shankland-esque kind of goal. But no, I think the only downside to Braga will probably be that he'll attract a lot of attention when we get into the summer. You know, and as much as I would absolutely love for him to stay here, for forever as well. Obviously, with the new kind of model that the club wants to actually be, you know, you could see him getting a pretty large price tag when it gets this time, especially if we do go on to do the unthinkable as well. With that in mind, but yeah, he's a man very close to my heart, and a beautiful specimen as well. Beautiful specimen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Handsome lad.
He really is. He's just got that. I think he's got that likable factor as well. I saw a thing on, I can't remember if it was on Twitter or wherever it was earlier on, but it was somebody talking about sort of legacies of players, and they were talking about Scatchell, and then they sort of mentioned Braga, and they said, you know, if this team goes on to lift a league title, do you put Claudio Braga in the same sort of breath as a Rudy Scatchell? And there was a lot of people that were in favour of that. Lots of people were, you know, Braga needs to do a bit more to get into that bracket. But there's certainly players that can just impact games, and Braga has that in his locker. Like, he was incredible against Aberdeen. He was everywhere in that final third. He was harrowing. He was chasing everybody down, and it's just what he does. And we expect everything like that from him every week. But the game itself, we've kind of drifted away from it. But I don't really think, like I said at the start, it was as comfortable a 1-0 win as you could have. There was, by half time, you're looking at it going, we could quite easily be 3 or 4-0 up here. We had the Kabori lob over the bar that just went past the post. And there was another couple of chances here and there. But at half time, I sat there and thought, yeah, this is done. Aberdeen offered next to nothing from their side of things, which is a worry if you're an Aberdeen supporter. But thankfully, we're not, so we move on. One player that I did want to mention, obviously spoke about Braga. I'm gonna throw it to John in a different angle because we've spoken about right backs a lot recently, but I think Michael Steinwender deserves some praise, some credit. So John, it's up to you to shower him in praise and credit, please. I know you might not want to, but crack on.
What I will say is, about 3 minutes, he got done by Aberdeen quite badly. Sanya was very unlucky not to put that away. That early mishap aside, he was again very solid. I remember at one point Aberdeen tried to put 2 or 3 balls into our box, and he blocked off at least 2 of them. I think he might have blocked 2 and then headed one away. It may have been like a block and then a header away. He was solid again. Like, I can't complain really on the whole. He was very solid. That's really the only that's the only kind of praise that I think a right back should be looking for. But he was, so it's, I get why he's there, I think, a bit more after watching the last couple of weeks. In these scrappier games where we're not necessarily going to be playing free-flowing, attacking type football, it's all about effectiveness. And what was effective in this game at times was balls over the top, lumping it forward, making sure that Aberdeen don't get to take advantage of the considerable pace that they have, particularly. The defence did their part, they really did. And considering how card happy Kevin Clancy was in the early minutes, we were very fortunate in that regard. If I could just touch on the referee as a bit of a tangent, that was another woeful fucking display of officiating. He was very quick to card both Halkett and McCart early on in the first half. But during the kind of latter 15 to 20 minutes, when Aberdeen essentially turned it into a Royal Rumble match, it wasn't quite so quick with the cards. I forget who it was, but there was one of the Aberdeen players that eventually did get booked. It might have been Geiger, but it should have been his second yellow. Ultimately, is the problem that I have with it. And once again, I can't help but notice just some decisions that keep going against us, like the obvious corner that should have happened and didn't. And that's 2 games in a row that has happened to us at Tynecastle. Little things like that can add up when you're in such a high pressure situation, when you're playing such a close knit game, and when you are under the sort of scrutiny that we are. I don't feel like Kevin Clancy was willing to give us next to anything, quite frankly, and it was fucking infuriating.
That's fair. I think the refereeing display is you've kind of summed it up quite rightly there. I think Halkett and McCart were the 2 that got yellows early on, and as frustrating as it is, they both were yellow cards, annoyingly. That Olusanya kind of did give them a bit of a runaround in those early stages, but I think they kind of got to grips with him quite quickly after that. Steinwender also was up against Keskinen, who was subbed off at half-time because he got absolutely no change out of him, so that filled me with a lot of praise for Steinwender. Hopefully that gives him a lot of confidence, and the fact that Derek McInnes keeps sort of name-checking him when he's talking about players, you can tell, like Steinwender, they'll be aware of the noise that's been coming from outside, from terraces or whatever else. They'll be well aware of that. But Derek McInnes' man management of that situation, just to say, this is why I'm picking him, and he is very good at what he does. So it's the game, like I say, the game sort of carried on and just petered along as it did. I mentioned at the start, I didn't feel that nervous. I didn't feel that worried about it. And I think it comes from the fact that this team has gained that trust. They've earned that trust from the fans. And I felt, despite the last sort of half hour when Aberdeen finally decided to actually wake up and remember they were in a game of football, I felt like it was never in doubt. And that quote of Derek McInnes saying, sometimes 1-0 is enough, that was just in my head. And you could tell it. You were like, yeah, this. I'm not going to say the game's in the bag, because obviously it would have been much better if we got a couple more goals. But the trust that this team has got from just the performances and their consistency on the pitch is quite something. Ewan, what did you make of it overall? Like, obviously, we spoke just before we came on about the way I worded it was, I'm having some real difficulty enjoying this at the moment because the nerves and the tension is there. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that. But what do you feel about it? It's unprecedented at the moment what we're doing.
Oh, mate, absolutely. I think, obviously, because this is like the first time I've appeared for about almost a year, and like, obviously, we're still in like sort of constant was a dialogue as well as the games have went on. I think, it was kind of almost reminiscent. I can't even mind what year it actually was. It was actually back when you and me still worked together, Alan. Like, I think we got to like Christmas time when Craig Levine was still in charge of the team, and we were like
2018-19.
5 points clear the league, and like it was always that kind of, all right, okay, well, it's been nice, you know what I mean? I don't have I still don't have increased confidence as I did at the start of the season. And I think the fact that, like I said before, we're now into the start of March, we're almost at the split, and I've still got no more confidence as I did at the start of the season. And it's just, there's not going to be, I mean, unless we had accumulated the exact amount of points we would need to win the league, I don't think I'm ever going to be as confident until like maybe the last few games of the split. I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but it has just literally just been an anxiety roller coaster throughout the whole year, man.
Oh, it's been mental. I think just one final point that I want to make about the Aberdeen game that completely slipped my mind was that complete non-penalty at the end that Aberdeen fans seemed to be shouting for, as was their manager, Levin. He was very much, demanding that it should have been a penalty because they had a similar incident the week previous that was given, etc., etc. The incident is not even worth discussing. Stuart Armstrong, momentum carries him into Steinbender. Steinbender stands his ground, despite Peter Levin saying that Steinbender put a knee into him, but I don't know what instant he was watching because I never saw that. But yeah, it was, I think Peter Levin was doing it in a way to kind of distract from his team's performance and kind of put the focus on that rather than anything else. But Derek McInnes also had a little bit of a Barney at the end of the game with the Aberdeen midfielder as well. There was some scenes at full time. Hearts fans obviously celebrating another fantastic 1-0 win. Aberdeen players not very happy. Derek McInnes, obviously, I think he bumped into someone or he might have brushed past someone. It was all just a bit nonsense, really, and it was blown up into something that it really didn't need to be.
Yeah, like it was a German boy, Geiger, no?
Aye, that's right. But it was a complete non-event and a complete non-pundit. Chris Sutton has decided that Derek McInnes is going to be our undoing. If you read the articles today and the headlines today, but Chris Sutton's a fucking walloper, so we'll move on from that. Sorry, I cannot stand that man for different reasons. But yeah, 3 points in the bag takes us clear at the top of the table and able to sit with our feet up and wait to see what happened in the Old Firm derby on Sunday. This is, like you talked about, you mentioned there about having the confidence, etc., or not having the confidence in us getting over the line. I am very similar in that sense. I keep saying, if we do our own job, that's brilliant. But surely other teams will have an impact. They will do something. But every week at the moment, results just keep going in our favour, and it is really it's again making it very difficult to keep feet on the ground and be level-headed and not get carried away with things. Obviously, the Old Firm derby ending in a 2-2 draw thanks to a last-minute penalty. I've never celebrated a Celtic penalty in my life, and I never will again. But in that moment, it's been very, very difficult the last few weeks. Obviously, celebrating Hibs beating Celtic and then celebrating Celtic scoring a penalty. I don't know how to feel about it, John. I don't know what you think.
I'm kind of with yourself, to be honest. And to touch on the confidence or lack thereof, I think I would be more confident if we had taken something from Ibrox and then the results since then had played out the way they have. Like if we had gotten a draw or a win at Ibrox, it was at Ibrox, wasn't it? It was at Ibrox. Yeah. If we had gotten something out of the Rangers game and then we had beaten Falkirk and Aberdeen and Celtic had lost to Hibs and the Old Firm game had been a draw, I think I would be much more confident than I am, because I think what we've been discussing, the three of us, off air, I think pretty much sums up my feelings on it. If we go into the split with like a 4 to 6 point lead, then I think we have a chance to win it. But we have to play both of the Old Firm twice, or once each rather. So we need to get something out of at least one of them, and we need to try and win out the rest of our fixtures outside of that with a very thin squad at the moment. Fortunately, I think with the international break coming up, normally I absolutely fucking hate them. I think this is the perfect time for us to have an international break, because it means that we get that extra week for a guy like Benny Beningame to get back up to speed. He's obviously came in as a substitute at the weekend there. He was on the bench, which is great to see. I think with Benny on the pitch, the midfield is already much better. So if we can get him back fit enough to start against Kilmarnock at Rugby Park, that would be wonderful. The only other thing that concerns me about that, though, being the fucking pitch there. It's not a good pitch, and it's not necessarily the kind of pitch you want to be throwing Benny Beningame onto when he's coming back from an injury. So it's going to be a tough one. But I think it gives everyone, like Devlin, for instance, that chance to work on their rehab and give them more of a chance to come back and see as much playing time as possible. Like if we were playing this weekend, that would be one less game that Shankland and Devlin would be able to play when they come back. And I think that the games after they come back are really going to be what defines it for us, because that's the split. Ideally, you're looking at both of them being back for the split. You're looking at hopefully Benny staying fit the rest of the way. So yeah, it's hard to be confident that we can win the league, because we are, as we've talked about so many times, being chased by juggernauts, the two teams that are much bigger than us, much more talented than us, player for player, and have millions and millions of pounds on their bench every week. But at the same time, like you say, things just keep going our way. The breaks just keep coming to us, and it's like the couple of times this season that we have lost or that we've looked poor for like a stretch of a few weeks. Anytime that anybody has, and the pundits have said, "Oh, the bubbles burst," etc., we find a way to get out of the hole pretty quickly and get back to it. And we're winning games 1-0. It's not pretty, but we're getting the job done. I'll take another 9 Chaba Laszlo specials. Thank you very much.
No, completely. I think it's interesting, and I obviously with my Arsenal persuasion, with my Arsenal hat on, the 1-0 to the Arsenal is a chant that is very well known, and it's became sort of synonymous with a team that just won games. They weren't particularly pretty, but they won them, and they got the job done. That got them over the line and made them successful. And obviously, Derek McInnes has mentioned multiple times about 1-0s being the bedrock to a successful side. So it's common sense. Obviously, after the game, Derek McInnes was asked about the potential training camp, the warm weather training camp. Obviously, the trip to Dubai called off for circumstances that we're not going to get into, because this is not a political podcast, and it never will be. But that, unfortunately, going, that plan is being put on ice until a further down the line date. McInnes mentioned that they will be just training in Edinburgh, and I think that makes the most sense. I think, get the players back fit, like you mentioned, and get them ticking along again. It's nice to have a break. It's nice to not need to rush players back in for games, etc. But yeah, it would have been nice for the players to get away and kind of have that kind of removal from what's been going on at home with the headlines and all the rest of it, because more and more pundits are suggesting that we might actually do this. And I think that, again, is adding to the level of anxiety that I have about it all, because pundits that know what they're talking about are coming out saying, yeah, I don't see Hearts throwing this away, I don't see Hearts stumbling, I don't see them faltering. It's quite something, and it's very difficult not to get swept away. We'll talk about the upcoming Kilmarnock tie. Obviously, you mentioned there, John, that we have a little bit of a gap now prior to that game. It should be a win. It should be, and I believe it will be, but I'm just a big nervous ball of stress energy at the moment when it comes to Hearts, and I don't know how many more games I can handle. We've got 9 cup finals to go. I don't know how many I can handle.
We just have to take it one game at a time at the end of the day, don't we? We have, 4 more games before the split. I think it's 2 home, 2 away. The 2 away games are probably on paper the 2 easiest as well. So I think we have a favourable schedule compared to Rangers and Celtic, quite frankly, at least on paper. Of course, we don't play on paper, as the great Brian Clough said. We play on grass, or as it were, on plastic. this next game, but we have to take it one game at a time, and we have to focus only on our game, because if we focus on anything else, we're going to lose sight of what we're trying to do from week to week, which is to win football matches. You can't be thinking about trying to win the league. That will take care of itself if we get the results we need. So we just need to take it one game at a time. And I think that's the kind of mentality that Derek McInnes has instilled in the players this entire season. I think that's the kind of professionalism that he will expect from them going into this late run in. We looked for all the world like the gap was going to be closed a couple of times recently. Like Rangers looked like they were going to win that Old Firm game, and all of a sudden they would have only been a couple of points back. Celtic get that last minute penalty and salvage a point. That's 2 points dropped for Rangers as much as is for Celtic. And I think that Celtic are going to be distracted by Motherwell, because Motherwell are only 2 points behind them at the moment. So ultimately, there's so much going in our favour already that we just need to focus on what we have to do week to week, get the results, and everything else will take care of itself. If it's going to happen, it's going to have to happen because we've won enough points to make it to get there. It's not going to happen because we're out of luck. They're not really going to start collapsing and forgetting where the goal is. Like, we just have to keep at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely it is. It is that way of just trying to keep ticking them off, and obviously the ultras with their little believe banners and all the rest of it. It's incredibly stressy. It's incredibly nervous. It's. I'm glad the players are not feeling that, or at least I hope they're not. I think Braga again was asked in his post-match press conference about kind of the mood in the camp at the moment, and he mentioned, we know that there's tension, we know that there's that that element of it, because it's going to happen. When you're on the brink of something, it would be historic if we could, and this group of players could go down in history as a group that could do it. But that will add massive pressure to them and everything else. It's pleasing though that Braga is saying, we focus on ourselves, we keep just going, we tick them off, and we keep moving forward, and we do our own thing. And it's clear that message has come from the management down, and Derek McInnes has been around the block. He knows that he's been in a similar situation with Aberdeen previously, which obviously ultimately didn't end in the way that you would want it to, or he would have wanted it to at that point. But something just feels different about this team at the moment, and they seem to be, at least from the outside, they seem to be handling the pressure very well.
Yeah, what I think would really help us along is if we give Kilmarnock a doing, which, quite frankly, if you want to just make a prediction right now, I think we will. I think that we're going to beat them by a couple. I'm going to say I think we'll hammer them 3-0. And that will be just the tonic for the recent sort of nerves. I think that's all it's going to take, is for us to really hump a team, and then we'll be right back to the chanting, we shall not be moved, with gusto rather than out of hope. At the moment it feels like it's more out of hope than anything, but I think if we can go and really turn over Kilmarnock away, that would really put us right back on the right path in terms of the nerves, in terms of the belief factor, because I think the players have maintained a level of professionalism the entire way. Like, they have always been taking it a game at a time. It's not something that's really affected them. I think the only thing that tends to affect them is when they hear the negativity start to creep in alongside the sort of lack of alongside the nerves. Like, I think when they hear the negativity creep in, that's when they're more likely to sort of second guess themselves, because that's what they're going to do, whether you're in first place. We saw it last year when we were in seventh or eighth place, when we were battling relegation last year. When people are grumbling and groaning in the stands, it affects the players. When people are chanting and getting behind them, that's going to help the players as well. I guess this is like a long-winded way of saying, like, we should take it one game at a time, and I have full faith that they will. And I think that, like we've said multiple times, as long as the fans keep going to the games, keep backing the boys for the stands to the hilt, it would be, that takes care of itself almost.
You gave your prediction there, John, in terms of the Kilmarnock game, and obviously we are a little bit away from that. There may well be some players back for that game, but I will give you a prediction. I believe, like you, I think we're going to hump them. I think it'll be... What scoreline did you say, sorry?
I said 3-0.
Do you know what, John? I had 3-0 in my head, but it might be just because I just heard you say it.
I bet you've missed this, Ewan.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, Ewan's got audio issues at the moment. He can't hear us right now, but we're kind of making it work as we go. My prediction, I'm going to go for a... Do you know what, John? Normally I go different from you. Normally I say, I'll add an extra goal on here or there, but I'm just going to go with a 3-0 win as well, just to give you that. Ewan, what would you say is your... I'm going to try... This is revolutionary stuff. Ewan, what's your thoughts, and how do you expect the Kilmarnock game to go?
Well, considering that we're going to be away from home as well, that's going to be interesting. Again, it's like, as we go through each game, and like, as we get to, like, the at the arse end of the season as well, I always think that, like, again, to fill myself up with confidence as well, how overly confident I feel that every single team is going to turn us over at some point. And also as well, being on the plastic pitch as well, I don't know about you, but I do not want any more players to get injured as well. Do you know what I mean? So that could also play a factor. But the way that Kilmarnock have been playing as well, obviously they've not had a great campaign themselves. So, and obviously before the split, the fixtures have been quite kind as well compared to the Old Firm as well. So I will probably go for a not overly confident 2-0 win.
I like that. We're both we're all predicting wins and clean sheets, which is something that is just bizarre. And it adds to that bizarre nature of this season. We haven't touched too much on the likes of Motherwell, etc., who will all have a part to play and where the title eventually goes. But with each week, I am beginning to believe more and more. I'm enjoying it less and less, but I'm believing more and more that this team could do something quite special. John, have you got anything else you wanted to add this week before I wrap up?
No, I pretty much agree with yourself, and I'm sure that Ewan will be thrilled to hear that. But I think it's just one at a time, man. Just take it one game at a time.
Yeah, I mentioned last week about sometimes it's important to stop and take a breath, and I think that is what this next 10 days or however long we've got without a game needs to be. Just an opportunity to stop, take a breath, and just take stock of where we are, because it has been a phenomenal season up to now. And like I said earlier on, and we've kind of touched on this week, this team has earned the trust of the supporters to just keep going and keep ticking along. And it's special, but it's a hell of a nervous thing. And if this is just year one of a 10-year plan, I don't know, I'm going to age about 30 years over that time scale if we continue to do this in this way.
Well, someone who's only a couple of years older than you are, mate, trust me, you're going to age that much anyway in the next couple of years.
I've already got greys coming through, and that's just from this season, mate. But we will leave it there for this week, folks. As ever, you can find our social media links down below. Also, whilst you're down there, is my link for my Just Giving page, as I will be taking on the half marathon in Aid of Big Hearts for the Edinburgh Marathon Festival, which takes place in 3 months' time. I have started a 12-week training programme as of today, so we'll see how that goes, and I'll keep you updated on my socials and stuff. It's a bit of a personal plug there for you folks. But whilst you're down in the description checking out all of our social channels, please do feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel and leave us a comment down below. Are you bricking it like me? Are you lacking confidence like Ewen? Or are you sitting on the fence and enjoying yourself like John and being the voice of reason like John? Let's call it that. Anyway, we will leave it there, folks. As I say, we do now have a gap before our next fixture, so we may be back prior to the Kilmarnock game. However, more than likely it will be after, as we ourselves take time to have a breath and just take in everything that's happened. But I just wanted to say quickly, obviously, Ewan, delighted to have you back with us. You can't hear me right now, or maybe you can, maybe you can't reply. I'm not quite sure where we are at the moment, but there's been a few audio issues here and there, folks, this week. But thank you very much for bearing with us. And take care, and take it easy.
Bye for now, everybody.
Bye.